Why we should preserve the Union today. There's no serious movement towards civil war or secession, but we act like we don't need each other. We interact as if we don't need each other, and that mirrors the early signs of division that leads to civil wars throughout history. Civil wars don't begin with battle lines. They begin when people stop seeing each other as needed for the social fabric of society. They begin with a mindset, and that mindset is the danger that we're in today. We're in a deeply divided country, 50-50 split, 50% Democrat, 50% Republican. Every election seems to be, in the last 2 decades, split 50-50 because the people are truly divided. Today's conflicts don't revolve around geography like they did in Lincoln's time. But we need to study the time of Lincoln to see how we move from this period in our history towards a period of national unity. Preserving the Union today is not about preventing secession in a literal sense, but preventing a breakdown of the social and political trust that binds us together. Unlike the 1860s, our modern challenges are rooted in a media-driven outrage, algorithm-fueled division, and a political system that incentivizes conflict over compromise. But just as Lincoln knew that the survival of the Union was needed, we needed to bind together as on an individual level. The future of America depends on our coexistence, even when we vehemently disagree. And the way towards unity is not by pretending like we don't have real divisions. And it's not about leaning out from our beliefs. It's about leaning into them and trying to compromise. It's done not on a congressional level or the folks in DC. It's done on the local level. It's done by me and it's done by you. This is the work that needs to get done. The work needs to get done on an individual level. Preserving the Union today means restoring a sense of shared purpose, each of us, in our own lives, reaffirming a commitment to democratic principles and choosing understanding over destruction, over viewing the other side as the enemy. This is why it still matters today. One, our democracy and stability are at stake. The United States is the longest running democracy on earth. If the Union is to fraction, it would lead to political instability, regional conflict, economic collapse. Our lives are so good. We are so blessed in America today. A divided America where we have political differences over elections and peaceful transfer of powers, that's not the world we want to live in. We want to live in a world where regions don't break away over political divisions, where there is not storming of Capitol buildings over political differences. The United States is the largest economic and military power on earth. And that's not just for our benefit, it's for the benefit of all free people around the world and those who live in the shackles of poverty or totalitarianism. Those who live under autocracy yearn for the freedom that we have. So the United States' success and our continued prosperity and our togetherness that must bind us, that's what's needed. That backbone is what leads not just the United States, but the whole world. America's always been a diverse country, but our strength is in our core ideals of freedom and opportunity for all and equality under the law. And even if regions, whether it's the North or the South or the Midwest or big cities in rural America, even if we have these differences, it's the common national identity that binds us together. That's what's needed. The Civil War showed that disunion leads to bloodshed and long-term bitterness and all the things that we don't want. We need to avoid the mistakes of other fallen empires. We need to learn from our history. We need to learn from the history of the 1860s and the years that followed in Reconstruction. We need to learn from the fall of the Roman Empire, which led to centuries of instability, chaos, poverty. the collapse of the Soviet Union, which led to immense economic hardship and wars between former states. We need to learn from fallen empires and come together. The alternative is chaos. What would happen to our federal institutions like Social Security if we really can't come together? But the fear is not just civil war. I think that's far-fetched. But we need to preserve the union in our hearts. We need to preserve the union on an individual basis, on a neighbor-to-neighbor basis. It's about having conversations with people you don't know. It's about getting out of your media bubble. Keeping the country stable and prosperous and secure is really depends on each of us. Lincoln fought to save the Union. He said it was the last best hope of humanity. This time, it's even more the case. It's even more the case that each of us needs to come together, speak to those who are different from us, listen to news, read news that's different from what we're used to, understand where the other side is coming from. It's on each of us to preserve the Union.